What is going on? Welcome to the episode. Today we are going to be chatting about bebés. Now, I do not have kids, but I do have two nieces whom I absolutely adore. However, if I was to have children, this is exactly how I would prepare to do so. Now, I'm not telling you what you should do to prepare for pregnancy. I'm just going to share what I would personally do, and you can take whatever you'd like from this information and implement it or not. Totally your call. The first and really important thing to acknowledge is that dudes are not off the hook here. For some reason, we only seem to be focusing on the health of the mother, but guys, you are contributing 50% of the DNA here. That's a lot. Your health matters, and it's especially important during the time of conception. So my goal is to be as absolutely healthy as I can. And the same goes for my partner, which makes sense, right? You are the only two ingredients in this recipe that are making up the dish. And so the higher the quality of the ingredients, the better the result. As far as a time frame goes, ideally, I would want to be as healthy as I could be for as long as possible beforehand. However, if I had to put a number on it, I would want to be incredibly healthy for at least 2 years prior to having a baby. And the same goes for my partner. The longer, the better, but for me, 2 years would be the absolute minimum. Now, there's a big difference between health, performance, and body composition. So nutrition, movement, sleep, and stress management is going to look different whether your goal is health, performance, or maximizing body comp, or essentially the way that you look. There is a ton of overlap between these three, but when you're looking to make the most of any specific area, these three goals are different. For example, maximizing the performance of a marathon runner is very different than maximizing the health or body composition of someone who runs. You cannot have it all. So at some point, we've got to decide what our number one priority is: health, body comp, or performance. And in this case, we're talking about fertility, which inherently means we're talking about health. So let's dig into the specifics. We'll start with nutrition. In order to maximize my health as well as my partner's, I want to favor the following. First, nutrient density, which is just a fancy way of saying making the absolute most out of the calories that I'm consuming. So a nutrient-dense diet would look like single and minimal ingredient whole foods with little to no processed and hyperpalatable funky foods. The diet itself would be an omnivorous one because we are omnivores, meaning it would include both animals and plants. Plenty of animals, in fact, because animal foods are the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet and the most bioavailable, meaning we absorb and assimilate the nutrients in animal foods really well. As far as calorie intake goes, I would eat the amount of calories that would have me feel my absolute best with an outstanding sex drive, because libido is an amazing sign of health, because if your body wants to procreate, and my goal is quite literally procreation, that lines up pretty good. Number 2 is digestion, because in order to capitalize on the nutrients that I'm eating, I've got to absorb them, right? Or else it's essentially useless. And so digestion is key. That means no bloating, no diarrhea, no constipation. We want healthy bowel movements, and essentially anything that throws off digestion would be a no-go. I'd skip it. Also, the vast majority of the immune cells in our bodies are in the gut. They're in your stomach. And so digestion is incredibly important to fight off things like viruses, pathogens, and just to stay thriving. The third thing to consider under the nutrition umbrella is drug intake, which includes alcohol, and it would be 0. It is what it is, guys. Alcohol is not going to make me or my partner healthier. And the key here is that I still fill my social bucket. So I'd be sure to hang out with family and friends, but drugs and alcohol themselves are not enhancing my health. They're hindering it without a doubt. That's just not debatable. And any one or any study that says that alcohol in and of itself is improving health, is grasping at straws, and is simply cherry picking a result that they just want to find because as a society, we love our booze. I know it's not great news, but it's just true. Now, if hypothetically I wasn't willing to give up alcohol, the less the better, of course. Transitioning to movement, I'd be sure that myself as well as my partner continued to hit our 10K steps per day, as well as continue to weight train. Yes, you can absolutely still weight train while pregnant. A friend of mine actually weight trained the morning that she gave birth, which is just so cool. And if you're skeptical here, just think about our evolutionary history. Pregnant women were not sedentary. They didn't just lay down and relax for 9 months straight. They stayed super active. And as a cool little aside, the more that you move, it actually helps the baby with things like proprioception, which is just a fancy word for understanding where they are in space and being aware of their bodies. Also, being inactive isn't healthy for the mother. Inactivity for mom means unnecessary weight gain, increases in things like fasting blood sugar and blood pressure, etc. So I'd be sure to be active and stay active. Same goes for my partner. Sleep. This is a biggie. 7 to 9 hours nightly based on personal needs at the time. Going to bed as close to when the sun goes down as possible and waking up without an alarm in the morning, feeling rested and alert. Super simple recipe on the sleep front. Now, anything that impairs sleep is a skip. So that most likely means no electronics pre-bed, lights are dimmed because we want to minimize bright light exposure at that time, a cool dark room, etc. On to stress management. So this is an interesting one because especially if it was the first baby that myself and my partner were to have, stuff is going to come up, right? Fear, insecurity. Am I going to suck at this whole parenting thing? What about the health of my child? Are they going to fit in at school? And the list goes on. The truth is, the more issues of my own that I can resolve before having children, the better. Because the less issues that I have, the less issues I'm going to pass on to my kids. And the idea isn't that my kids have zero issues. That's simply not possible. And so the question is not whether I'm going to fuck up my kids or not. The question is, to what degree? I am going to screw them up. I'm flawed. We all are. But the less unresolved grief that I have, the less it's going to hinder me as a parent, and therefore I'm going to screw up my kids to a lesser degree as a result. So this means continuing to work on myself day in and day out, seeing my therapist twice per month, just like I have for the last 10 plus years, and just striving to be the best human that I can be. Keeping my eating, moving, and sleeping habits on track are a huge part of the stress management recipe as well. And then outside of that, there's not much more that I can do, right? And there's a ton of comfort in that because heaven forbid, if something was to go wrong in some way, shape, or form, I don't want to have questions about what more I could have done. I am going to leave no stone unturned simply because I'm not sure that I'd be able to live with myself if I didn't. It's really simple in that sense. So that's how I'd prep for kiddos, a super straightforward plan that is much easier said than done. Now, if you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. On Instagram, I'm at N1Fitness. On TikTok, I'm at the N1Fitness. And on YouTube, I am at Marcus Sadu. Yesterday, I just dropped a new video outlining my experience over the last 90 days on the carnivore-ish diet with some modifications, as well as the pros and the cons as I see it if someone was interested in giving the diet a go. Thank you so much if you've left a review on your favorite podcast platform. And lastly, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that you found this episode useful, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.